Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
It has been a few days, and I'm still pretty bummed. I had my entire schedule cleared out for the month of June, essentially, thinking that Nikola Jokic would be able to carry this team to another championship. Of course, the Denver Nuggets get bounced by the Timberwolves, who honestly feel like a team that was meant to beat them, who was built to beat them. And I'm excited because I've been able to talk a lot of hockey this guy. I haven't been able to talk a lot of Nuggets basketball, but he even said on Monday, I saw him for our weekly meeting, and he was like, this feels like the day after Super Bowl 48, after the Raheem Moore situation that went down with the Ravens and the Broncos on my birthday so many years ago. So I'm excited to bring in Will Petersen, talk a little bit about the Denver Nuggets, because this is such a heartbreak, Will. It's unbelievable, to be completely honest.
Yeah, Rachel, it's interesting. I mean, here we are a few days later, and I still think it's a top 3 loss in Denver sports history in terms of rip your heart out and stomp on it. I would put Raheem Moore, the Flacco fling, at number 1, obviously on that bitter cold Saturday in the divisional round in the 2012, technically January of 2013 playoffs.
On my birthday, Will. I was there. I will never forget that day.
It's a good way to ruin your birthday. Don't forget, that was the best of the 4 teams in the Peyton Manning era. They definitely would have won the Super Bowl that year. That was Von Miller and Elvis Dumervil right before Faxgate let Dumervil out of town. That team was loaded. They had won 13 games in a row. So that, to me, still remains number 1. I know more old school Broncos fans will talk about 1996 against Jacksonville when the Jaguars came in here and stunned the Broncos. And honestly, some thought they may never win a Super Bowl. Now, that one gets a little less sting because they won the next 2 Super Bowls after that. But, Rachel, the Nuggets were at home, up 20 in the third quarter, 58-38. I feel like the Timberwolves were this close to rolling over and dying. Like, honestly, if the Nuggets had made 1 or 2 more shots, it felt like the Wolves were going to go away. And instead, they let them back into the game, and you look up and it's 12, and then it's 8, and then it's 4. And then the Wolves have the lead, and Raheem Moore happened in about 2 seconds. This happened in about an hour, but they were still both as equally painful to witness, and sort of brings up the question, which one would you rather have? Would you rather be stunned, or would you rather watch it all slip away in an hour? The Nuggets' chances at back-to-back titles slipped away in an hour, and I still think, it's one of the worst losses in Denver sports history. It's absolutely brutal.
Wait, it's a good point that you bring up. Like, would you rather be stunned and just sit there and be like, I can't believe that just happened, or watch essentially, a championship in a lot of our eyes? We all thought whoever wins Game 7 is probably going to go on to win the NBA Finals, or at least make it to the finals. To watch it just slowly fade away over that long of time. If I had to pick one, I think I would go with, I would rather just be completely stunned for a quick second than have to watch it just slowly die.
Yeah, I mean, a little morbid we're getting here, but I guess this whole situation is a little morbid. So I tend to agree with you. I'd rather just be stunned, not know it's coming, because that was the worst part about Sunday was all of a sudden, like, you knew they were going to lose, and it was the finality of, like, they just blew a 20-point lead at home. I mean, we will have no parades this summer. The Avalanche season had ended 44 hours before. Yes, I understand we got spoiled to have 2 parades the last 2 summers, but Michael Malone's mood in the post-game presser kind of reflected how all of Nuggets Nation felt. Now, I'm not excusing what he did. He shouldn't have treated the reporter that way, but I also will give him a little grace that he's just really ticked off that his team just had the worst Game 7 collapse. Let's put that into perspective. Worst Game 7 collapse
in
the history of the NBA.
I know. And I felt bad. The Timberwolves were right behind them, screaming in the locker room. You could hear it so loudly. I have a clip on my social media. Like, it's so loud. I don't blame him. Yes, he should never have responded back in that way to a very good question, to be completely honest. Like, essentially, he got asked about the emotions of what just happened. And while he was frustrated, he should never have responded in that light. He could have just stopped and said, next question, man. I think that was like the beginning of it before going off on his rant. So it doesn't excuse him, but I mean, we all had emotions. Like, we were all pretty pissed off. We all felt a certain way. I can't imagine going through every single minute of the season and then having it end that way when you know you have the MVP, you know you have what it takes to win. But we have to also give props to the Timberwolves because they didn't back out. They didn't stop anything. They continued to roll out there. But Will, I also am kind of curious. Tim Conley built the Nuggets. He also built the Timberwolves to a certain degree. Did he know that the Nuggets were going to be this superstar team, essentially that they are, go out there and win a championship? And he's like, I know this is going to happen. Now I have to build the team that can beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he knew they were going to win the title, or else he wouldn't have left, because he would have gotten a ring.
I don't know. I would have left if I got a share in ownership for a team, even if I thought they were going to win.
That whole thing was overblown. The Timberwolves situation. Have you followed their ownership situation? It's a total mess right now. No one even knows who owns the team, let alone Tim Connolly. He's not on anyone's radar. It's the old dude versus A-Rod. Connolly, they're just like, yeah, that whole ownership thing, maybe that was kind of a sham. I see what you're saying, though, but if we're living in the hypothetical, I think he would have stayed one more year and gotten the ring and gotten the credit and then left. But I do believe, to your second question, he built the Wolves to beat the Nuggets. No doubt about it. He knew Denver was one of the best teams in the West. And he specifically, remember, he made that Rudy Gobert trade and got a lot of crap for it. And then Rudy Gobert wasn't amazing in this series, but he definitely had his moments in this series, just like Cat had his moments, and just like Anthony Edwards was very, very special. So, yeah, I think Conley knew, hey, I built that team in Denver, that team that could be a multi-time champion, and now I've got to build a team in Minnesota that can prevent that from happening. And guess what? That's exactly what he did this year.
I keep thinking about your tweets that I saw on social media for everybody that called Ant MJ. And it is a little crazy. Don't get me wrong. Anthony Edwards is a very talented player. He's very fun to watch. But comparing him to literally one of the greatest of all times, whether you're team MJ or you're team LeBron, it still feels very, very premature.
I just thought it was ridiculous that he's getting asked if he was Michael Jordan after 6 playoff wins when Michael Jordan won 6 NBA championships, right? Like, I understand, networks are trying to fill fluff pieces, but this fluff piece aired on like a morning show midway through not even midway through the playoffs, asking this 22-year-old kid if he was Michael Jordan. It just, I wasn't mad at Ant. It just felt so inappropriate to ask him that. And could he be Michael Jordan someday? Sure, I guess. But again, Michael Jordan's got 6 rings. Ant has 8 playoff wins. Let's keep it into perspective here. He could get his first ring this year. He could. And if he does it at 22, it would be remarkable. But we're just in such a hurry to crown these guys and find the next Michael and find the next Kobe and find the next LeBron. Like, let's just slow down and enjoy the moment and let a 22-year-old's career play out before we ask him straight to his face if he thinks he's Michael Jordan.
Okay, so obviously we have to remember he's 20, I think he just turned 23, actually.
Okay, you just have a birthday?
I think during the playoffs, he just turned 23. Regardless, he's still very young. I'm curious your thoughts on his antics following the game. I had Jamal Murray in handcuffs. We saw the post-game press conference where he said, I told those bleeps I'd see them back there for game 7, talking about the staff at Ball Arena after game 5. I'm just curious your thoughts on all of that, looking at who he is as, just a player and a young man, and if it's a good look for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jamal Murray had 35 points, so you didn't put him in handcuffs. So that one he's just wrong on. But Rachel, I'm a big believer if you can back up your bleep talk, then you can talk your game. And he backed it up. He sent the Nuggets home. Nuggets are in Cancun. Jokic is in Serbia, and he's getting ready to host the Mavericks for the Western Conference Finals. So you want to talk smack, then sure, back it up. Anthony Edwards talked a whole lot of smack, and he backed it up. So it stinks, but I'm not going to be the Denver media member who's bitter and just crushes the guy for the sake of crushing him. If he was on our team talking like that and then making the Western Conference Finals, we'd be cool with it too. The Nuggets didn't do their part. Michael Porter Jr. had 7 games. He had single-digit points in 5 of them.
Listen, though, you and I both know Jamal Murray hears the talk and he definitely remembers it. Like, I'm already looking forward to the next matchup when these two teams are going to meet. But is it the start of a rivalry? Like, rivalries, I make them very precious. Like, I know back in the day, the Raiders Broncos was a serious rivalry. I don't look at it as much so as a rivalry. I know people think the Chiefs and Broncos is a rivalry. I don't really look at it as a rivalry. Like, I'm curious, is this the start of a rivalry?
Could be. I mean, you know what makes rivalries is playoff series, right? And
Yeah.
that's what made the Avs and Red Wings such a great rivalry is not
Yes.
only were they brawling every time they played, but they were meeting each other in the postseason. It felt like almost every single year. So, yeah, if the Nuggets and Wolves play, I mean, they've played in 2 straight playoffs, right? If they play in 4 of the next 5 playoffs, then yeah, definitely it'll be a rivalry. But also, like, people try to make Broncos and Chiefs a rivalry, and the Chiefs win almost every single time. It needs to be the Nuggets punching back, because if this is the changing of the guard and Minnesota just wins the next 4 playoff series against the Nuggets, then it's not a rivalry. It'll become a rivalry if, like you said, Murray hears this talk, Jokic hears this talk, and they can throw a counter punch at Minnesota whenever they play in the playoffs again.
Do we think Jokic is already back in Serbia? Do you think he was on a plane on Tuesday or Monday?
I mean, perhaps it's he's got a lot of money and an access to those kind of things, and I don't think he wastes a lot of time once the season ends. I hate the narrative though that he's like ready to leave or wants to leave. Like those jokes to me were funny like 3 years ago. Like this guy's made a couple things clear. One, he loves Denver. He said he wants to make it a second home.
Yep.
And 2, he loves winning. He wants to win championships. So just because he goes home right after the season ends doesn't mean he was desperate to get out. But it also means that that's his happy place, and it is now his off season, and he's going to spend as much time as he can because he's got a lot of great friends and family back over in that part of the world.
I will never forget that press conference when he couldn't believe he had to stay for the parade. It's one of those prime moments that like everything Jokic has done on the court we'll obviously all remember, but it's going to be those moments that I'll like tell my kids about, right? Like you won't believe it. And then this guy, won MVP, did all of these things, won a championship, but like he couldn't wait to get back and he was floored that he had to do a parade. Now he had so much fun at that parade, but I think that's why we all love Nikola Jokic because he throws these curveballs at you that you just don't expect sometimes on a personal level.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of the most fun athletes to cover out there. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. And yeah, guess what? He had a good time on parade and he wanted to stay on parade. Iconic line at the podium out there at Civic Center Park, but, didn't get to stay on the parade. And the season is just, it's been 3 days and I'm still just stunned that it's over.
I know. I'm totally with you. Will Petersen, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Of course, good old Nuggets talk. It'll probably be back here before we know it, but we got a lot of Broncos to dive into as well. Tomorrow, OTAs, the media can go out there, so it's going to be a lot of fun for a Thursday edition. So we'll be breaking down everything you need to know with Andrew Mason as well tomorrow, and then hopefully Cecil Lammy on Friday talking about OTAs and what we see. Thank you guys so much for spending just a little bit of time with us today, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.